Is everybody listening? Everybody on?
Yeah.
Well,
I wanted to start out. I did a little bit of homework today in regard to the tax rate. Alyssa was able to get the final figure for the taxable assessed value for the village of Fredonia, and I'm not sure that the community realizes that we could work diligently on our budget, get it so that it doesn't go a penny over last year. And if the taxable assessed value changes, it changes the tax rate. And this year, as in years past, the taxable assessed value was reduced by $500,000, which means that the values within the village, for whatever reason, whether it was due to grievance days or loss of buildings by fire or whatever the case may be, it reduced the value of the taxable inventory in the village. By doing that, with the $500,000, it actually raised the per thousand rate from $35.15 to, I have my sticky note here, to $35.68. It's a 49-cent difference, which comprises about $10,000 above our budget. Now, I think we mentioned the other day that there was a $40,000 overage. That
so that $10,000
is included in that. It's included in the $40,000 because there were some more calculations, and we'll explain that in just a second.
Yeah. As you were talking, that $10,000 is an increase in revenue.
Yes, it would have been. No.
A decrease.
It's a decrease in revenue. Our taxable assessed value decreased,
Right.
so our revenue decreased, which increased the tax rate.
Oh, from the 35.15. Got it.
Yes,
Okay.
to 35.
Okay. Right.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So
make sure.
even though we could have diligently stayed right within the budget to the penny, our taxes would have increased if we didn't offset that because of the taxable assessed value.
Correct.
Before we go any farther with that, I just want to warn and kind of advise members of the community, if they're listening, that this should be of concern to everybody. Over the last 3 years, since 2017, our taxable assessed value in the village has reduced by $2 million.
That's a lot.
Now, we have offset that, I imagine we've offset it with the unreserved funds.
Yeah.
But each year, it's reduced considerably. And I think we need to take that into consideration. We have to remember that. We have to kind of be on top of things when it comes to asking for reports from the assessors, looking at things that could generate revenue, such as revisiting telecommunication towers or solar energy, building permits. There are several ways in which we can revisit these things, but I think we need to stay on top of it. And the biggest thing that I can say, and I've said this before, is that a reval of the entire region, town of Pompert and the village, is really of utmost importance when it comes to things, when you look at things like this and the reduction in our taxable assessed value. I'm done with that then. But that's the reason why we have to, $10,000 of the 40 we need to cut today in order for there to balance the budget with the mayor's, is because of this reduction in taxable assessed value. But we did get some good news today. Alyssa, you want to share?
We received our renewal rates for our health insurance, and they only went up the 2.5%, which we had in the budget with a raise of 5%, so it saves us approximately $25,000.
Whoa.
That's great news.
Yes.
So that 25 can be taken off the 40, right off the top,
Yeah.
which means that in order to get down to the mayor's proposed budget line, we still need to reduce by $15,000 in the budget. I don't know if you have taken any looks at this or make any considerations, but I believe that we have a responsibility to take care of our personnel before we take care of projects. In this current environment that we're in, I think we should take care of people before we take care of things. Saying that, I think one of the things that we can reduce at this time in regard to personnel might be the treasurer's salary, which is an indication with the accountant that we're using for now that we may be able to save some money and reduce that by as much as $10,000. That might be up for consideration.
You got it at 32,000 right now.
No.
No, the treasurer's salary is at 75.
It's just the way that's broken up. That's why it
Oh.
looks like that.
But the total salary of the treasurer's at 75. And
Where is
we,
that listed?
in the back pages, I think?
On the personnel sheet.
On the personnel or the admin sheet, if you look under treasurer, it says,
Why wouldn't that be under the treasurer line on the budget?
Treasurer position is broken up in between different positions. That's in the
Different
back
departments.
also.
remember how it's broken up, Roger, in between different,
I just don't understand why it's not shows in the budget, that's my question.
well, it's back on
I
the,
understand.
It is on the,
yeah,
isn't
you see it on the admin page, under personnel, in the yellow, where it says new treasurer. And the regular payroll expense. It's the first page, it's the first page
Yes, but
past.
again, why isn't it in the budget then?
It's in the budget, it's in the different departments that pay for it.
Yes.
That's divided, how is it divided, Alyssa, do you know off the top of your head?
Treasurer, water, sewer. 26% for treasurer, water, sewers, 37 and 37.
Did you hear that, Roger?
So basically, under every account, the treasurer's salary is broken, part of it goes into every account?
Yes,
That-
under those three different accounts.
Yeah, it says right here.
There should be a distribution sheet in your packet.
Yep, there is.
Yeah, it says right here.
I'll be in there in a minute, yeah.
I mean, that's just a possibility.
Before we did that, if I look at the fire department budget, that payroll is going from 681,000 to 833,000, 150,000 more. So if we're gonna cut payroll, I'd say if any place, it should come out of there.
Well, most of that, with the exception of the new emergency management position, all of that is contractual.
Well then, delete the emergency management position.
Unless you want to cut firemen.
Did we add a new position?
We haven't added anything since we just hired the ones that we did. There's nothing new on here.
There's no new positions, other than who's already there.
Correct.
Correct. I think other areas of consideration, in my mind, under capital projects could be a reduction in the road maintenance by 5,000. I mean, I understand, but
The
I
roads
think
are
there's
not in good
80,000 in there. If we reduced it by 5,000, there'd still be 75. A reduction in the residential meter replacement or the commercial meter replacement by 5,000 each. It doesn't eliminate them, but it does reduce them. In the police department, I'd like to talk to Phil, but perhaps the tasers.
That-
Or
I
you could do
thought
the
he-
car and do the whole thing and be done.
I
Or the
think-
copy machine.
The copy machine, I think he said, is very important, and then he has expressed that the tasers were very important. The car would probably make the most sense, and put it off one more year. I mean, he said that they did a lot of maintenance on it, put new tires and bunch of other things on it. If they could squeak by for one more year with that one car, and look forward to try to get it in next year's. I know it's a big thing, but I mean, it would be a large amount of money to be able to
Right.
deal with this.
What are your thoughts about that, Roger? And Roger, if we did the police car, it would take care of it all.
The only problem with that is then you're gonna pay more for maintenance. So I'm not really excited about that.
But how much, I guess we need to know how much more in maintenance we're gonna pay. I mean, what's the difference? Does it balance out or no?
It's the same story we hear from every department, including Tony and Ed. If the older the equipment
Well, I know that.
gets,
I
the more
understand
money you're
that.
dumping into it.
How much,
Perhaps we need to have a crystal ball.
I get that, but we're talking about 1 year.
can some of the maintenance be done on those cars by our streets department? Then we're looking to hire a new Mechanic 3. And if we're sending these cars out to somebody else to be maintained, maybe our own village Mechanic 3 can do that work.
Because it depends on what,
Possible.
yeah,
Well, I
depends
mean-
on what the,
Mechanic 3 can do just about anything.
But you still gotta pay for any type of parts.
Well, yeah, but
Yeah.
how many parts are going to be, I mean, this car isn't really that
don't know, Jim.
old.
what is
I
it,
mean,
4 years old?
It
Is a
has about 90,
16?
it has about 90,000 miles on it, and it's like 4 years old, my guess is we could probably eke one more year out of it. And without, I mean, compared to the cost of a new car, unless there's a major mechanical, like the engine's bad, but he didn't mention that. He said that there was minor things that needed to be repaired on, that are starting to get to the point where they need some replacement. But I know we would like to keep things in the most modern as possible, and as we talked about with Tony, keeping equipment at a newer equipment seems to hold up better. But, I mean, it's really not that old of a piece of equipment,
2016.
2016.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Well, what other suggestions are there?
You guys have any other thoughts about cutting?
Well, again, I understand where you want to cut now, and I do know that we're going to be revisiting this budget probably within the next 4 months. Cutting a large purchase like an automobile at this time could make sense. I mean, we can always add it in later on based on the information. we receive.
if there's funds available. so
That's
that-
true.
Right. So again, we're not cutting it completely out this year. It could be an opportunity for us to add that back in later in the year.
Okay.
I don't know, another avenue you may want to take a look at, and I'm a huge advocate for our Park and Rec department, and I believe solely in doing a lot of youth activities. If you take a look at our supply line in recreation, and you take a look at our youth program personnel line, that might be something else we could nip at a little bit now and possibly add in later on once we get a firmer feel of some of the numbers. Just a thought.
But I understand. If we look again at the budget in like 3 or 4 months, then summer's over. Do you know what I mean? So that's when he needs the extra personnel, is during the summer.
Right, but again, if you look at our current situation now, I mean, again, a lot of activities are being canceled.
Right?
The schedule, so, I don't know, I'm just, like I said, I'm just taking a look at some of these numbers. You've got a supply line of $4,200 in there, in the rec department. I mean, it could be a couple $1,000 here, a couple
I just
$1,000
feel like he
there.
does a lot on a little bit of money.
I mean,
Well, and the other thing is,
$4,200 is not a lot of
Roger,
money.
if we take the car out, we've met the requirement.
Then we don't need to do anything else.
We've more than met it.
Okay, I mean, that's fine with me, and again, that's something it sounds plausible.
I feel comfortable about that. I think that, and I think Roger's right, we can revisit it. If something happens in September or October and
Right, like December's a good time to buy a car.
If we
So
could,
maybe,
yeah.
maybe we would want to wait
Sure.
until then to
If-
look at buying a car.
if we could deal with this right now by using that car to do that, Nothing says that he has, in the Parks Department, that he has to spend all of that money.
Right.
Or
that he will,
In fact,
if the
throughout the
programs
entire
don't work.
budget,
Yeah.
if, say, the Streets Department, if they're not spending all of the money that they use, it goes back into the general fund.
Right.
Right.
Just same with the parks. So, I mean, so the money can still always be there throughout the year. It doesn't mean, I mean, this is, your budget is essentially an estimate of where you're going to be for the year. So this is just how to make sure that we're in as close in line as possible to begin with.
Right. Well, that's why I like Roger's idea. If we take out the car, that takes out everything that we need to take out in order to get down to
Right.
the line that the mayor's proposed budget read.
I think we
And
should.
that we
look at that.
will probably need to revisit this,
Oh,
A little
yeah,
later.
you know,
Sure.
a little later in the year. Absolutely.
Right. I mean, it's not like we haven't done that kind of thing before. Had to purchase something,
Right.
you know,
Sure.
during the year. Something came up, we ended up finding ways to find the money within the budget to make a purchase.
Roger Pecos, are you on board with that?
I would rather do that to nickel and dime some of the smaller budgets.
I agree.
Yeah, I
Yes.
agree too.
I agree.
think
I agree.
that- and it'll be easier for Alyssa too.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah. So are we in agreement that we're going to remove at this point, the police car at $39,000? And that will bring us down to,
The 39, are you going to do the meters and the road maintenance?
No,
Or
just
just
the
the
car.
car?
just the
Just the
car.
car.
That's all we need,
We need
right,
one.
Alyssa?
Yeah.
The only thing I would say is Tony mentioned that, you know, there might not be a lot of maintenance just because of not being able to get it scheduled.
Right.
Right,
So we may end up with extra money in that account.
sure.
True.
And we have extra money in this insurance account too.
Then
So,
great. If we have
you
extra
know,
money
we're
in
ahead of
6
the game.
months and we could
And
buy
we
a car
haven't raised
then,
taxes,
that would
Right.
be great.
yeah.
But I'm also concerned because on the other side, on the revenue side, I think we're estimating high. We're not going to get the sales tax that we
Yeah.
have in the past.
Right.
and depending
That
on
is a
what the-
concern. That,
Yeah.
I think you're right on that. So the sales tax is actually, as far as I'm concerned, the only area that we're really going to be worried about is the sales tax. But we don't know that we're
Right.
going in here, so I don't know what we're going to do about that.
I don't know, you need a crystal ball. The only thing is, we've got it at about the same as this past year, and I really doubt it's going to be up that high.
It's not going to be.
Right. Well, and
Well, you could then, I mean, if you want to reduce the road and the road maintenance and the metering now, but there's 10,000, you could take 10,000 off of the.
well, I think,
Sales
like
tax.
Roger Britt said, we would revisit this after things get back to normal to see what sales tax we are going to get and what sales tax we need to make up.
Right.
And make those adjustments
Within the budget.
within the
With it.
budget then.
I agree.
But I think we're close enough overall to still keep us from having to raise taxes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I add one other quick thing here too? I'm looking at some of the other capital fund projects. We have $20,000, is this correct, pigeonhole for downtown Christmas streetlights?
No, I think
that's
that
the-
was cut.
That was cut. It's look over to the right there. It's, that was gone completely.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I looked at
No,
it.
that's all right. It's a lot of numbers.
Yeah, okay. Again, I'm looking, I just thought maybe there'd be something else we could nip and maybe get below other, maybe add in the car, but maybe a little extra, like to offset some of that revenue that we may be losing, just as a precaution.
Well, I hate to make it too low because I think that what we're going to offset is going to be this sales tax.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's about
if we
it,
nip
yeah.
another-
Yeah.
Let's say we nip another $2,500 or $4,000 out of it with the car.
I think that the insurance cutback will do that.
Okay.
Everybody on board?
Yes.
Yep.
Roger and Roger, we can't see you right now. Are you on board with that? That's all right.
I do like what I'm seeing. It's a beautiful beach
Beach.
scene.
Yeah.
You okay with that, Roger? Brits and
I guess
Pecos?
for now, we're holding off, and then depending how the year goes, it's, if it's a possibility, if we're not doing road maintenance, we have enough, and we need a vehicle that bad, we
Yep.
can revisit it. So
Okay.
for right now, I say let's hold off on it.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm in agreement also.
great.
That's what they make budget transfers for.
Alyssa, was there anything you wanted to add, or
Nope,
that's probably the easiest way to handle it?
that is easy.
Okay. This budget has been an interesting process, I think, for everybody. With Doug's first budget and with our treasurer leaving us, I think it's been a big challenge. But I want to thank Alyssa and Michelle and Anne Marie and
Yes,
everybody
absolutely.
so diligently going over the budget.
And thank you.
Thank you. I think
I
that
still got one more question
Okay, shoot.
on Chief Walker's. If I look at his salary, does that include the stipend for
yes,
emergency management?
yes.
Um,
And we have,
In the back, it's in there?
yeah, and we have not approved that yet, but we included it in the budget. So there
Okay.
is some room for discussion.
That total amount, 104,121, includes everything?
It includes the 13, yes. So as I was saying, I just would like to thank everybody that there was a lot of recalculation that needed to occur, especially in the personnel lines, and Alyssa and Michelle worked tirelessly to do that, and able to stay on the lines that we were given. It was quite a challenge, but it was interesting, and I think we need to learn from that and move on. I think everybody's gained a lot of knowledge and insight to that, so thank you.
Actually, I got another question. Under, for revenue, under sale of property, you budgeted last year 9,000. It shows no receipts as of the end of February. Did all that equipment we approved to sell, including the tanker, not show up this year? Is that going on next year?
Did it sell?
We accepted bids on a bunch on old police car, the old recreation vehicle, the old.
Right. Did
the
we
tanker,
receive payment for it?
We approved those sales.
Right, did we receive payment for it?
I'll have to
I
look.
don't know, that's why I'm asking, because
Well-
it's showing zero receipts.
Well, Alyssa says she'll have to go and check that out.
Not since I've been in there. So.
Yeah.
So my question is, you approved 9,000 last year, it's showing we got nothing, and we're approving 15,000 for this year, so my question is,
What page are we on?
are we anticipating this money to come in from these sales on next year's budget? Otherwise, why did we raise it?
That's a good question.
Can you answer that, Doug? No?
So we don't know if we've gotten paid for the vehicles that we approved the sale on?
I don't imagine that we have yet, because we just approved it, not at Monday's meeting, but the meeting before. So with everything that's happened, I doubt that there's been a payment received for that money.
I think it's been over a month, because I think we were still, it was before we were doing the social distancing.
Yeah, I don't know if those things got recorded into the accounts receivable. I don't.
We can check that.
David Dawn, could you tell me again what that insurance increase was?
Yes, we budgeted for 5%, and the insurance came back with a bill for 2.5%. So there was a $25,000 difference, which is in the budget, which will not be an expenditure. So
Thank-
if you want to look at that as revenue, you can, you know,
It's just not
kind of like,
expenditure. Yeah.
but,
It decreases the insurance, okay.
yeah. Well, that increase was anticipated with the 5%, so
Right.
it'll be less.
Less of an increase than what we
Yes.
thought. Correct.
Are we set?
I guess.
Everybody in agreement?
Yep,
Let's put it up there for
Okay.
yeah.
next week. Then.
Thank you, Alyssa.
He said thank you,
You're
Alyssa.
welcome. Thank you.
So we're going to put this up for the 28th
Yep.
as
It's Tuesday, right?
adopted budget on Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Tuesday's the day?
It's
it was
Tuesday,
in?
the 28th, yeah.
It'll be,
Let me ask you something, Doug, maybe you know this. If we are not going to exceed the 2%, tax cap, do we have to pass that law? Do we have to even act on it?
We have to actually rescind it before we, the one that we, I mean, the.
The one that
just
we've
did.
called a special meeting to enact it as a local law on Tuesday.
And then,
If-
but then we have to, Dan will have to answer that, how do we do, we've always had to rescind that.
Really? If you know it's not going to happen, do you have to act on it at all?
Yeah, that was the question last
don't
year.
remember.
And that was the question last year, and we did act to
Really?
not,
Anyone
I think
remember
it's
what?
just, isn't it just I think if you don't do it, you don't need to rescind it.
but we didn't do it every year that I've
I
been,
would wait to hear from our attorney on this before we speculate.
yeah, I mean, every year that I've been here, we've done something
I don't remember. I'll ask Dan.
stating
Whatever
that
we
we
need
weren't,
to do, let's do it on
stating that we
Tuesday.
weren't going to act on it, I guess, or I don't know how it worked, but we did do something.
Okay, Alyssa, what do you need from us in order to get this ready to propose?
Provide that.
I think that's it.
Okay,
I'll just make the adjustments.
great.
Okay,
Great.
thanks, everybody.
Anybody else? Anything else? Anybody else?
Not at this time, thank you.
Good.
Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Bye.
See ya.